Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Cowboys Roundup. It's me, Space Cowboy Media, with my brother in crime, Cowboys beat Chris. How are you doing today?
My eyes opened up, and everybody I love is healthy, so we're doing good today. Everything else is a plus.
Yeah, except for what happened last night, but that's okay. So what we're going to be doing today, it's nothing too strenuous. We're going to be talking about the Super Bowl 59 recap, some thoughts about how we felt about the game, a couple things that we have gripes with, and then what we're going to do is talk about the Cowboys finishing up their coaching staff with adding more positional coaches with surprises in there that I think a lot of us didn't expect. And then we're going to do another mock draft and maybe a couple other topics of conversation. So we're going to go ahead and dive straight into it, guys. Remember, if you're starting to watch this on the video on demand, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, hit that notification bell, and do all that other stuff to help things out. So, Chris, I think a lot of us were shocked about last night's Super Bowl. I don't think a lot of us thought that the Eagles were going to kick the living shit out of the Chiefs, and they straight up violated them, bro. Like, there's no other way to put it. Is that they literally went out there and they did exactly what I would want any team. Like, if you're trying to kill a team, like, bro, the kill shots when they went up 34-0, like, it was crazy, man. Okay, but it looked like the Chiefs didn't even want to be there. And I don't want to go super in depth right now, but just I wanted to hear your initial thoughts on this game, man, because this was crazy.
Well, I mean, the reason why the Eagles won this game is because they were dominant on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And it wasn't just like a 60-40 and the Eagles got like the slight edge. Like, no, it was like 90-10 on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Jalen Hurts had all day to throw the football. Patrick Mahomes had no time to throw the football. It was incredible to watch, just like when you take off your Cowboys fan, Cowboys analyst type of glasses here and just watch the game for what it is, take the teams out of it. The performance that they had on the line of scrimmages, it was one of the best that you'll ever see in a Super Bowl, which is, credit to Howie Roseman and the way he built his football team and the way that I want to see Dallas build their football team. And knowing that you're going to have to play this team here for pretty much for a very long time, you have to understand that you have to build your team a certain type of way to beat that team now. And I actually think that in a way, like the Eagles performing at this level is a good thing for the Cowboys from this perspective. The Cowboys always build their team to win the division. They might not win the conference. They never win the conference, by the way. They don't win Super Bowls with that mindset. But if they're building their team to win the division, well, if you want to build it in Philly's blueprint where they're drafting trenches in the first round and making sure that their trenches are right before they do anything else, well, there it is right there. And another thing I would say is that, the Eagles proved that you can win a Super Bowl with an average quarterback. Like I really don't care what people tell me about Jalen Hurts and how he's elite. There's nothing elite about him. There's nothing he does at the quarterback position that is elite. He doesn't have elite accuracy. He doesn't have an elite arm. He doesn't have elite footwork. He doesn't have elite pocket presence. There's nothing he does elite. There's very few things he does good. But Howie Roseman saw, hey, we have a limited quarterback here. And because we have a limited quarterback, let's work around those limitations. As a matter of fact, let's do something risky and defer as much money to the future as we possibly can to make this team better and to give us a real shot to win a championship. And just ask Jalen Hurts to not turn the ball over, don't put the ball in harm's way, and we'll win a Super Bowl because of how talented our team is. And that's really what I gained from that. You can win if you can win a Super Bowl with Hurts, you can win a Super Bowl with Dak, and there's no doubt in my mind about that.
This makes this conversation pretty easy. If you put Dak Prescott on the Eagles, they still win the Super Bowl this year. And that's no insult to Jalen Hurts. It's just the fact of the matter is this is the thing that bothers me, is that there is now this innate conversation about how Jalen Hurts is better than Dak Prescott and everybody else in the division just because he won a championship. And I want to be very clear, like, yeah, we would be talking highly about any of the players, especially if the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. But my thing is that the Eagles gave Jalen Hurts easy buttons. And that, again, is not insulting to say or demeaning to him. I actually do like him as a quarterback. The thing is that the Cowboys asked Dak Prescott to do more with less. Jerry has gone out and said this publicly. There is no other team in the National Football League that goes out and says to their quarterback, you got to win more with less. You just don't. And so this is where, like, and when I say this, people think I'm making excuses for Dak Prescott, or rather any player on the team, right? Like, bro, you just had CeeDee Lamb, go out on Super Bowl Sunday on Twitter, talk about how it's goofy as shit. We're talking about the possibility of trading Micah Parsons, and that this happens every offseason. The players are sick and tired of how we do things over here. Now, this is where I want to be very clear as well. I don't want to hear anybody bitching about what Dak Prescott does. I don't want to hear anybody bitching about what Micah Parsons does. Any player, any coach. You want to know why? Who's been the same dude here for the past 30 years? Jerry fucking Jones. That's your general manager. And if you want to throw his son in there, that's fine. I just don't want the energy to be misdirected. We saw last year that the energy was properly directed at Jerry Jones for failing to build a team that can contend and try to win. And rather than them, when you're going 12-5 3 straight seasons, you could have easily been like, listen, we're going to just push this money out. We're here. We're going to strike while the iron's hot. And they didn't do that until the third year. And they wanted to act like that was all in. So this is where, again, to any Cowboys fan that's watching this, the Cowboys did a terrible job with roster construction. Terrible. Oh, they paid Dak Prescott. No, we're stuck with him. Okay, is that Dak Prescott's fault? No. I'm done blaming the
one too. The Cowboys got Brandon Cooks. No more excuses.
Yeah, no more excuses, guys. We got a 10-year-old, 10-year veteran Brandon Cooks, not a young Brandon Cooks. None of that bullshit. No more excuses, guys. Right? So again, I want to, and I'm going to say this till the cows come home. Right? I don't want to hear anybody talking about how we're starting to see that Dak Prescott isn't who we think he is. Bro, we know who Dak Prescott is. The Cowboys aren't doing the smart thing and build around him to make him successful. We saw that if you give him the bare minimum, he could put up MVP numbers. Like, this is insane to me. So again, moving forward, and we're going to talk about how this coaching staff really panned out. And I got one more gripe to pick, but I'll let you go in just a second.
Yeah, I got one too.
My thing is that I am not going to sit here and talk about a player getting money, a coach making business decisions to coach here. None of that. Dude, they don't we are looking at one of the best coaching staffs that this team has put together since the Bill Parcells era. And if they don't get him the ingredients, this shit don't matter, man. It doesn't. Like, so, and they're going to make it seem like it's going to take 3 years to rebuild, but in reality, this could be a lot sooner than that. So I'm going to stop there for a moment. Do you have any other thoughts and stuff like that? Because I know there was one thing I really wanted to get to.
Well, okay. This is from Dominic White on X at Dom W White. Mm-hmm. The Cowboys rank in free agency spending since Dak Prescott was drafted: 24. 32nd, 23, 28th, 22, 25th, 21, 26th, 2020, 21st, 2019, 30th, 2018, 29th, 2017, 23rd, 2016, 19th. Dak Prescott was making like 3-4 times what I was making. And I do pretty decent for myself. That is an NFL quarterback doing that, making that type of money. And they didn't do anything in free agency for this guy. I mean, let's keep it real here. This is why I say wins aren't a quarterback stat, because we're judging on a different scale. Like, yeah, Jalen Hurts can win a Super Bowl with the Eagles when His offseason acquisitions are A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley and guys like that. It is much harder to win a Super Bowl when your best offseason acquisition is Brandon fucking Cooks, who is just a wide receiver 3 at this point of his career. When we traded for him, he was a wide receiver 3. But guess what? Even though you have a wide receiver 3 as your wide receiver 2, even though your second best receiving option is a tight end who might not even be a top 10 tight end in the league, you have a quarterback who, behind a decent offensive line with a below average run game, can play at an MVP level. What are we talking about?
Doesn't this sound so familiar?
It's so crazy. It's Romo all over again. That's what it is.
Bro, this is why I get so annoyed. Look, and here's where I'll go on my little tangent. This is why I wasn't mad at Eagles fans last night. I'm mad at Cowboys fans because y'all and some of you content creators out there really glazing Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, not realizing that you do know who we're working with here. By the way, another thing. I'm only 26 going on 27 this year. I have not seen the Cowboys in a conference title game. So mess me with the bullshit of talking, 5's better than 2 space. I don't personally give a fuck anymore. Mainly because of the fact that you haven't done anything competitive in 30 plus years. You've shown no signs of trying to improve the roster, make any changes. And I'm going to say this because I know some people are going to say in the comments, "Ooh, but space. It's not Jerry's fault that Dak plays like this. It's not his fault the players do this or the coaches do that." Okay, so then why doesn't he just make any changes then? You would think. I want you to think about this. Use the Eagles, right? The Eagles were 10-1 this 2023. 10-1, 11-6, lost in the wild card round. Did they just sit there and be like, "Hey, we're still good enough, guys"? No, what they did, they fired their 2 coordinators. They got brand new coordinators. They went out in free agency, got a bunch of players that ended up being fantastic additions for them. And on top of that, they built a team that is sustainable to win in the postseason. They recognized, think about this, they recognized after their last Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs 2 years ago, bro, we cannot allow them to torch our defense, and we cannot allow ourselves to put up points, and we still are losing this game, right? Even though they're up 10 at halftime. They built a team that can dominate, to your point, both sides of the ball effectively, and they did that this postseason. They'd had one hell of a postseason run. In fact, the one game where they could have lost, if it wasn't for the weather, they probably lose that game against the Rams, which we're having a whole different conversation.
Which is crazy. Like, dude, the Rams are going to be a team you want to know what? Early pick, they're my NFC favorites for next season. I think they're going to add some serious talent to that team, and they're
there. Right, exactly. And so my last thing I'm going to say to Cowboys fans, that are so vocal and want to talk shit. Listen, if you want to talk shit, I'm not going to tell you how to fan, but this is just me speaking. You need to shut the fuck up. We're done with this bullshit because we're staying. To me, listen, I can only speak for myself and what we're probably going to do here. We're going to just stay in our corner. We're going to talk about these Cowboys, and we're just going to sit here and just take it for what it is, right? Because I don't care what the Eagles do, right? I don't care what the Giants do, and I don't care, "Oh, but they're in your division." My thing is again, the Cowboys have not shown us any semblance of doing anything worth rocking the boat. They're not willing to move off of Dak Prescott. They're not willing to look to trade Micah Parsons. And if they did that, they would get fleeced because they don't know how to do a fucking trade properly. Like, that's the problem, is that they are literally putting us in a position where, think about it, they would rather put their own players under the bus than actually try to build a winning football team. They're more concerned about winning deals, about signing their own, and talking a high game about how they draft well and sign their own players, but they don't want to do that. So, I could go on that forever. So my final thing is to Cowboys fans that are talking about how we need to do this or how they need to do that and all that other stuff. You need to be on Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones's ass this entire offseason and moving forward. Okay? Nothing about Dak, nothing about these coaches, none of these other players. It's on Jerry and fucking Stephen Jones. We need to keep that energy up because they see that shit. And will it change anything? Probably not. But I don't want to hear any of this stuff. Okay. Oh, we should have had Kellen Moore. No, fuck that. We don't need any of that anymore.
No. Okay.
Go for it.
I want to get out in front of that. No. If you listen to people, like I watch the tape, but if you really want to listen to people who dive deep into the tape, like former quarterbacks, they'll tell you this is a basic offense. They had exceptional talent, and that's how they won. It was not because Kellen Moore was some great X and O scheme guy, because schematically that offense was extremely inconsistent this year. No, Kellen Moore was not the guy to do what we needed to be done. Kellen Moore can get away with being basic in Philadelphia because it's Philadelphia. Like, they have a lot of talent on that football team, but that's besides the point. No, yeah, the pressure has to be on Jerry and Steven. Why is the conversation Dak Prescott? He hasn't played since November, guys, the beginning of November. Why is he the conversation? The conversation needs to be, how are you going to make this football team better? It's not Dak, Schottenheimer, Parsons, CD, you guys have to be better. No, Jerry and Stephen fucking Jones need to be better. They need to be better in all facets of team building, whether that's the trade market. Like, granted, I'll give them credit for what they did in the draft last year with that trade back to go get Guyton and BB. I think with Clayton Adams, you'll see a much bigger return on your investment with Tyler Guyton. And BB looks like he's going to be a fantastic center for you. So I'll give them credit there. But they need to be more active when it comes to trading. And even during the draft, it's not like they're great with trading. Like, I mean, I remember they traded a 5th round pick for Eric Scott or something like that, or a 6th round pick to go get drafted.
I think it was a 6th to move up and get him.
He's a dud, but that's besides the point. Yeah, I mean, this team can be one of the top teams in the NFC next year. There's no doubt in my mind. If they strategically build this football team, they can do that, but they have to strategically build this football team. And if they don't do that, it's going to be the same thing next year. They need to improve on the offensive and defensive lines. They need to improve at running back and wide receiver. If they improve in those 4 areas, this will be a team that can compete with the Philadelphia Eagles. But until you improve there and get NFL starters, not 5th and 6th round picks that you're hoping are going to make the jump in year 2 or year 3.
Right.
NFL starters. And then come draft time, guess what? You know, if you have a running back like Dowdle and you say, oh, Gentry's here, let's go draft Gentry. Now you have a really good 1-2 punch. If you have, if you bring back Zach Martin or you sign Will Hernandez, you could say, oh, we have Zach Martin, but there's an offensive lineman on the board that we like. If you address the defensive line, oh, hey, we have NFL starters here at the defensive line, but we really like this player. Now you have depth in your room. Now you have potential to be a really good room. But the Cowboys also need to understand, and it's not going this direction, but they are built to be a 3-4 defense. Why? Because Micah Parsons is a 3-4 outside linebacker. He's not a 4-3 defensive end. They don't have the personnel to run 4-3, even though like you would look at their defensive line and say a majority of their personnel is 4-3, but your best player is a 3-4 outside linebacker. So you're not getting the most out of your best player. So there's just a lot of things that just we have to hold Jerry and Steven accountable for. This do more with less. We're done with that. We're done with that. Go get at least what like guys like Matt Stafford have. Go get at minimum that. And if you can do better, great. But yeah, we need to keep the pressure on Jerry and Steven.
Exactly. And so going to that, I wanted to talk about this coaching staff that the Cowboys have put together, right? Like we talked about the process and Brian Schottenheimer coming here. I'm not a fan of how they went about the process whatsoever. And I want to be clear that I had no problem with Schottenheimer being promoted internally. My only problem was that I felt like it wasn't a serious coaching search, which are two completely separate things, right? And people, I'm not the only person that felt this way. A lot of people felt like, okay, why did you just promote this guy internally? Now, especially when you have other candidates out there, like you're not even being serious about what you're trying to do, right? So this put a lot of worry. And we talked about it. Like we were worried they were going to try and keep the same coaching apparatus in place and just keep running this thing back, right? They haven't done that at all. They have added the three coordinators in Clayton Adams, first-time OC, Matt Eberflus, a veteran DC/defensive coach, and Nick Sorensen, special teams dude, right? And then you look at their position coaches, bro, they were delving into the college ranks to give these guys like first-time NFL jobs. I've never seen the Cowboys do that. You got in Connor Riley out of Kansas State. I know that Cooper Beebe is a huge fan of his, right? And also he's really good at what he does, considering what he did at Kansas State. You brought in a guy like Junior Adams, straight up just from the college ranks, the co-OC of the Oregon Ducks and / wide receiver coach. He is now your wide receiver coach. And then in the running back room, you brought in Derek Foster. And, he's been from the college ranks. He's more recently, he was with the Rams, then with the Saints last year, and now he's here with us. And so with that, I had to go back, bro, and I had to look. And as the title says of this video / podcast title, this has to be the best coaching staff I've seen the Cowboys put together since 2003. Objectively. Like, they have gone through, like, if we're talking about, like, the head coaching search, that was, like, ridiculous. Like, of course. But the fact is that this says a lot about what Brian Schottenheimer wants to do. Right? We talked about they can't keep the same guys around. We can't keep Mike Solari around. We can't keep some of these other dudes around, right? And we said, you know what? This is pretty good. You're and going back to the whole alignment. We talked about this in episode 2 or 3, where whoever the next coach was, they need to be aligned all together of what they want to do. And what are we seeing? A team that wants to run the ball and stop the run. And that's what we've been wanting to see is like cohesiveness. We didn't see this with Mike McCarthy, right? Of what was his vision? What kind of team are you trying to build? It seems like you're just throwing, stuff at the wall and hoping to God it sticks, right? And then you talk about Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett, was he consistent? Sure. But his consistency wasn't at a level that you needed it to be. Wade Phillips, kind of the same way as Mike McCarthy. Like, I don't know what kind of team you were trying to build. But with Bill Parcells, you know what the kind of coach he is. And he had a vision, and he put together a coaching staff that can make that vision come to life. Didn't result in anything, but it took a bit because of where that team was once at, right? Now, that doesn't mean that this is foolproof. But objectively, if Brian Schottenheimer has his hands on this is a fantastic search. But I wanted to get your thoughts, man. Like, how do you feel about where we're at? By the way, we don't have a QB coach or a safeties coach yet. I'm not sure if they're going to look to do that. I don't know who they're looking at. But, bro, no retreads at all, aside from Matt Eberflus. If you want to call Brian Schottenheimer a retread because he's still part of the staff when Mike McCarthy was here, But, like, it's all new people, dude. Mostly all new people.
I'm very, very optimistic. Shout out to Mike White, by the way. He was like, damn it, I wanted Senior Adams. That was funny. Great follow. Burgers and Blitzes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's refreshing to see because we've seen the Jim Tom Sulas and the Joe Philbins and the Mike Solaris, and now it feels like we're getting a breath of fresh air with this coaching staff. You're getting younger guys. And I want people to understand, you don't need the coach that's just like screaming on the sidelines, get your ass off the damn field. Like Mike Zimmer. Shout out to Mike Zimmer. He did a great job. But you don't need that for guys to be held accountable. If you get guys that can connect and can teach these guys how to play at a high level, that's going to be big. And I am very optimistic about this coaching staff. It all comes down to, are they going to be active in free agency? They don't have to be, $100 million spenders. They don't have to be that. But can you go get NFL starters? And that's, take the Dak Prescott. All right, let me come in close, guys. Come in close. Dak Prescott is not going to play games until September. We can criticize him then. This is when you start criticizing the Jones family. This is when you get on the Jones family's ass to do their job. Just like the Dak haters get on Dak for not doing his job, quote unquote, during the regular season and the postseason. Get on Jerry and Stephen Jones for not doing their job right now. This is their time to be criticized. We'll criticize the players come September and into January, February, whatever it may be. This is time for Jerry and Stephen Jones to be criticized if they're not doing their job. Now, if they go out there and they do their job properly and they improve this roster, we'll give them credit. But right now, we're not talking about Dak. We're not talking about Micah. We're not talking about CD. They did their job. They already played their season. What they had to do, they did that. Now it's time for Jerry and Stephen Jones to do their job. And if they don't do their job, just like the people when you go out there and criticize Dak and criticize CD and criticize Micah, you should keep the same energy for the Jones family. It's their season now. It's their season to do their job. And if they don't improve this roster, I don't give a shit about who the quarterback, the wide receiver, or the pass rusher, or who the coach is. If you don't give them enough talent, it doesn't matter. The Kansas City Chiefs yesterday had the best coach in football, the best defensive coordinator in football, the best quarterback in football, and got fucking dominated. Why? Because their roster wasn't good enough.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just where I'm at with this is, like, again, we can't expect our players and our coaches to overcome the deficiencies of the front office. Of course, that's the expectation we need to have because we know how the front office operates, but that's not normal. That isn't normal to say, like, hey, Dak, we clearly didn't give you enough, so you got to do more with less. Like, no, absolutely not. And so that's where I'm in the same boat as you. Listen. And when we talk about what they need to do, I'm not expecting the Cowboys to win the In fact, they just released the Super Bowl 60 odds, and the Cowboys, I think, were bottom 4 in the NFC, which, good. That's fine with me. You know what? No one needs to have this team on our radar. That's great. But going back to this whole thing, right? We talk about what they need to do. Like, Space, be honest with us, right? Like, if we're talking to me, what do I need to see? I need to see not a lot of players. I don't need a quantity of players to come in here. That would say something, but you need to add, and like you said before in the show, you need to add starter quality free agents, okay? Like, Will Hernandez, would he be a starting quality player? Yeah, I would say so. Not to what I would want, but he would be someone where, like, okay, that's a nice move. Or go after some linebackers, right? Go after some corners, wide receivers, right? Like, someone's like, okay, would you have Stephon Diggs on your team? Probably not. But if you were to go after him, he's at least a starting quality wide receiver. Right? But, like, they're not going to make any trades. Like, because if it were me, I'd say, fuck it. Just give a second and go get, like, George Pickens or some bullshit. I don't know. But they aren't going to do that. And so where we're at is they can't go into this offseason and sign just 3 dudes. You signed Eric Kendricks, Zekel, and fucking Royce Freeman, and you called it an offseason. And oh, wait, real quick. No, free agency does not extend into the summer months. There's reasons why guys are unsigned. Oh, well, we signed Carl Lawson. Look how great. I mean, that's great. That's great. What was that one dude? Like, bro, I ain't doing this shit. Like, that's why I'm getting so annoyed, because it's like they want to act like they're being the smartest people in the room by waiting until after the draft. Oh, because it doesn't factor into our comp. Yeah, I understand that. But, bro, we don't care about those comp picks. You don't do anything with them. You've only done 1 year with those comp picks. And shout out to Lando. I see you down there, my guy. How you doing? Like, that's where I'm at with this, man, is that the comp picks, they had 1 year where they went out and they did what the most basic shit, which is go after Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore to add to the room. And that's what we want to see. We want to see the Cowboys use draft capital to turn those into starters. We want to see them get guys that can plug up the holes. That's why you went 12-5 in 2023, right? Because think about it. Stephon got hurt. He tore his ACL. And with Trevon tore his ACL. I'm sorry. But you know what I meant. And Stephon did what he had to do. So, again, I just get so frustrated because if they want to sit, and we already heard from Steven and Jerry, well, it's going to be the same because we're kind of cap-strapped, which is bullshit. They ain't cap-strapped. They can open 100 million. But I'm not saying they have to open up the 100 million. If it were me, you can think I'm not crazy. To me, I would say just open up everything. But if we're trying to play it strategically and you don't want to spend so much money, well, here's what you should do. Open up some money. Bring some of your players back so you're not having a massive talent depletion. Sign some dudes and then go at it in 26. Because clearly that's what I feel like that's where they're at. We're at the part in the Romo years where it was 2011 through 2013, a roster that was depleted, and you come off a year where you went 6-10, and we're expecting Romo to hold on the whole thing. Oh, and that was the other thing. And I saw what Lando put in the chat, the whole O-line take, and I know you said it on Twitter, like O-line matters. And I think you mentioned like possibly taking an offensive lineman in the first round. And we got a lot of pushback in our first mock draft when we did that. And you got a lot of pushback for that. And again, and I want to be very clear, offensive line is still on the table. Like, and that's okay. And then that's okay. Like, again, we have to understand that we have to recognize what they're trying to build here. And so if they say we need to take another O lineman, I mean, fine. But like, and I might not like the pick because it's not a sexy pick, but you got to think long term. Like if we're going into the Cowboys' minds of things, they're thinking this is a 2-year endeavor to get this roster back to where it's supposed to go. You see what I mean? So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Go on.
And here's the thing, right? Like, people are going to hate when I say this, but if the Cowboys double down on offensive line, if they go like Banks or Simmons in the first and then double up and take Tyler Booker from Alabama in the second, I would love that. And you wouldn't have to worry about your offensive line.
I wouldn't give a fuck, dude.
You wouldn't have to worry about your offensive line for 10 years if you did that. And at that point, like, look, we saw some of the throws that Jalen Hurts made yesterday. Guys, I'm telling you this right now. Dak can make those same throws if you give him 8 seconds in the pocket and he can plant his feet properly and have as slow of a release as Jalen Hurts has. Dak can do all those things. And that's my thing, right? Like, if you have your offensive line set to that extent, you go get a running back, even if you re-sign Dowdle and go get like Jordan James or somebody in like the 3rd round or somebody along those lines. You're going to be running the ball effectively. You could still improve at wide receiver, whether that be with the 2nd round pick. I like the 2nd round wide receiver. But then again, if we're taking an offensive lineman in the 2nd round, but I mean, you could still go out there and guys, like if they sign Stephon Diggs or they go out there and trade for Cooper Kupp, your wide receiver room's better. Like Jalen
immediately
team's wide receiver 2 last year. You're better. You're better in that spot. And that's what I'm saying here is that like I want to improve and get. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. You don't have to like this team isn't close to having a perfect roster like the Eagles had this past season. We'll see what happens with go, but you know, you're not close to having that type of roster. So what you need to do is identify something that you want to be really strong at, which to me, there's no doubt about it, should be running the football. Because what the Eagles do defensively, when they can stop the run with 4 guys and playing that cover 2 shell, it's impossible to move the ball on them. But if you have an offensive line that can get downhill and run the football and control the game that way, guess what? They got to get out of that shell and they got to account for the run. So if you go get a Genty or you go get an offensive lineman and you go get another running back with some juice and maybe you re-sign out or whatever it may be, if you can lean on them and run the football, guess what? That's going to open up the pass. The Chiefs lost yesterday because they could not run the football. It's just it is what it is. Their running back room is just flat out mediocre. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to have to play against the Eagles here for the next 5 years. And if you're going to do that, you got to improve this offensive line and you got to improve this defensive line because they're very good in those spots.
And that's kind of just where I'm at, man, is just like they had an opportunity to really hit the reset button this offseason, which I was kind of clamoring for because clearly I just was sick and tired of Cowboys fans bitching and complaining about the players and the coaches and stuff like that. All right, fine, let's just get rid of everybody so then you can clearly see how terrible this team is at roster building. But I just think that people forget do you know who, like, it's like Brian Schottenheimer's father is very keen on running the ball and playing a annoying defense, to stop the run and stuff like that. That's been Marty Ball. And if Marty Ball comes to fruition in Dallas with a couple, we hear the good things. And I'm going to be very clear. This team is probably, knowing how they are, probably 2 to 3 years away from seriously trying again. Because we went through the 1 year, right, of 7-10. And that's kind of the cleaning the books out type year where you're just like, okay, we're going to get McCarthy out of here. We're going to bring back some of these dudes, whatever. Now, I think this is where I'm at, is this year has to be predicated off of vision or moving forward. Shotty has a 4-year deal. You need to show me you have a serious vision of the future. If your vision is we're going to build a badass offensive line, we're going to get a badass running back and whatever, and we're going to build this, cool. I think that's where, for me, it needs to work. You need to show me what you're trying to do and sell me on that, because and we talked about it, Chris, in the last episode, what our expectations are for this coaching staff. Our expectations is we have a consistent game plan week in, week out that shows, hey, I want to do this and I want to do that, and it comes out as a consistent modern game plan. If it looks the same that we saw with Mike McCarthy, this shit ain't gonna look good, And I think that's where I'm excited with this coaching stuff, because they can elevate guys like Tyler Guyton. They can elevate guys like him, and also Cooper Beebe and Brock Hoffman if you end up going with him. But
oh yeah, by the way, in 5 minutes I'm gonna have Foots call in over the phone. He's not gonna hop in the live, but he's gonna be on the phone. I'm gonna put him on the mic. So I've been working on that. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, no worries. But so and then we'll get into the mock draft later in the show. But like that's where we're at, is that the Cowboys don't understand the moment. They don't understand, you need to build this team to win now because of how you sign certain players, but they won't. And that's what I'm worried about, man. I'm worried.
And here's the thing, right? When it comes to cap space, the cap space is going to go up this year, like the salary cap's going to go up this year. If you re-sign Micah Parsons before free agency and just do that, you don't even have to restructure Dak's deal. You don't even have to restructure CeeDee Lamb's deal if you don't want to. If you just sign Micah before free agency starts and you like just, hey, we're probably going to get another $10-15 million with the cap. I mean, you're probably looking at like, what, $30+ million in cap space. And here's the thing, if you're signing guys to multi-year contracts, I mean, the next 2 years, you have $84 million in cap space. You have $156 million in cap space. You can just defer the money, the cap hits, to those years where you have more money to spend.
Exactly. And that's just kind of where I'm at with this, man. And I got to give a shout out to Get Right or Get Left for the $4.99 holla. This is Dak's swan song, and with Dallas, these next 4 years will expose both the front office and the QB for better or worse. Let's see what happens. I mean, they've already kind of exposed their hand. I appreciate the $5 super chat. But again, one of the things is that the Cowboys have already shown their hand for the past, couple seasons now. Like, I don't think anybody, that's just me. Like, I don't know if anybody else has had that thought process, but that's just me.
Yeah. And like, here's the thing. I think you and I are both frustrated because it's not because this is a bad football team that can't, like we're just stuck in the mud and there's not really much we can do. We're mad because they can turn this around instantly. Like,
right.
Hiring the coaches is the right step. That's the first step. Hiring good coaches is the first step because this team does have young talent that you want to see them develop. And hopefully they can do that. They're going to have some good draft picks here, picking at 12, picking at 44, picking in that like 12 spot in every round. You're going to be able to improve your team that way. Now, the next step is we have to get free agents in here that are going to help this team out. And you have to strategically, it's not just the big names. It's not just go sign Stephon Diggs. It's not just go sign Dre Greenlaw or Zach Bond or Javon Kinlaw or Will Hernandez. It's, okay, how do you find that Zach Bond type of guy? It doesn't need to, that's an anomaly. What Zach Bond did this year was a complete and utter anomaly. You don't see that. But can you get guys that can contribute to your football team that you're not paying a bunch of money to? Like, I will give them credit. Carl Lawson, guy that not making a lot of money, contributed big time to your not big time, but he contributed to your football team.
He was what you wanted.
Can you go out there and get guys in that like $7 to $9 million range while also, hitting on some of these $2 to $5 million type players and hoping that your coaching staff can build that up?
For sure. Absolutely. And that's kind of where we're at with it, man. And look, it is what it is. So
yeah. And here's the thing ultimately, right? Like the compare, like it's so weird to me. I don't get why Cowboys and Eagles fans, and I'm a part of this, I'm not gonna lie. Like, we just go at each other about our quarterbacks. Like, why can't we just admit, hey, like, we could talk about all the weapons that these teams have, but let's compare general managers and who's putting these rosters together and tell me Howie Roseman isn't worlds better than Jera. Like, look, so I just want to say salute to Jalen Hurts. He played pretty well yesterday, but you have people on X and ESPN like, where are the haters at now? And they're showing videos of like throws where Jalen is throwing a go ball against cover zero. Like, you want credit for making a throw that every quarter, like, he's an NFL quarterback, able to make a throw with the go ball down the field with zero coverage or cover zero. I mean, like, he's an NFL quarterback. You're not silencing the haters and the doubters. That's just something that it kind of just like drives me crazy. Why can't we, like, in college football, Stetson Bennett can win back-to-back national championships, and nobody thinks he's the best quarterback in the country. because everybody understands that Georgia team is just different. Why are we so incapable of doing this in the NFL? Why are we so incapable of saying like, hey, this is just a really damn good football team, and there's a lot of quarterbacks that could do what Jalen Hurts is doing, and instead we decide to diminish quarterbacks like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson? There's no comparison there. There's no comparison between Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Stop comparing those guys. And Justin Herbert and Stafford. And in my personal opinion, Dak. There's no comparison there. Those quarterbacks play the position better. They don't have a team around them.
I mean, bro, it's as simple as this. And I said this at the beginning. If you can take Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and swap positions with Jalen Hurts, they still have the same result.
Like,
they win the championship.
Tell me that Joe Burrow can throw for 120 fucking yards against the Rams. Are you telling me he can't throw for 110 yards?
Well, evidently, no. Apparently, he can't do that. But, like, that's the thing is, like, bro, they were playing from ahead in pretty much every, like, and when I say they were playing, with space, technically they were down a point, and when they were 7-6, and they were down 3-0 early in the NFC title game, bro, they were playing from ahead every fucking game by multiple possessions. Like, you can't make this shit up. Like, bro, like, it's a quarterback's dream. Like, look at what happened with Joe Burrow. When the Bengals did decent roster construction, they went on a run to get to the Super Bowl. They haven't had a good roster construction since then, and Joe Burrow is literally dragging this team to the precipice of the postseason, and he doesn't get shit to be congratulated for. But when you have guys like Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts going to the Super Bowl on super team, I don't want to say super team, but basically it is because of how they build the roster. Again, that's no fault to them. You need to look yourself in the mirror and be like, are we seriously going to have a conversation about how it's Dak Prescott can't do this? Because last time I checked, he can. If you don't mind.
Yeah.
Do you know what Patrick Mahomes reminded me of tonight? That 2022, Dak Prescott in 2022, when we couldn't run the ball, we could barely move. Then again, Dak was able to move the ball a bit more effectively than he did. But bro, no one was talking about, this is what's crazy. Mahomes wasn't playing well, and he deserves to be criticized for that, right? Just like Dak should be criticized if he doesn't play well. But what I'm not going to have, it's not his fault. Like his offensive line. No, don't mess with that bullshit. If you're not going to give Dak Prescott the same favors, I ain't giving anybody the same favors. Just as a heads up. And that's why I get pissed off. Because if you put Dak Prescott or any other quarterback in that position, dude, he was not getting nothing offensively, right?
Let's do this contest. Switch Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts from both of those teams. Who's walking out with the ring?
Yeah, exactly. And that's
while we do that, go back 2 years ago and let's switch teams. Kansas City and Philly. Switch Jalen on to Kansas City and Mahomes on to Philadelphia. And who's walking out with the ring? That's why I'm saying, like, wins are a team stat, because I can ask people, like, if I give them a lie detector test, right? And I'm just like, hey, who do you think has like the better supporting cast, like Dak or Jalen? People would be like, oh, well, Jalen. I'm like, all right. So, like, would you say that it's easier to win when you have better players around you? Well, yeah. So why are we giving somebody credit for doing something that you admitted was easier to do? That's why I don't believe in wins being a quarterback stat. Because when we're looking at, when people are comparing Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert's number one wide receiver this year was Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey was his number one receiver, a rookie 5'10" slot receiver.
Right.
That was his number one receiver. He choked in the playoffs. He threw 4 interceptions. His team sucked. He
had nothing to throw to.
Overachieved as a football team. The Chargers overachieved.
Bro, It is so wild to me that we have Cowboys fans that will literally sit here and say that Dak has no excuse. I don't want to repeat what you just said, but bro, you can't be serious when you really think that Dak has no excuses when he's playing on like veteran difficulty or like hard mode with the fucking Cowboys not giving him anything to work with. The fact that he was in position to win a MVP award 2 years ago, and the fact that he didn't win that, and that's why it's funny that Josh Allen won this award the way he did it, because it's just kind of like, hey, you win some, you lose some, right? But no, man, I want to get to this mock draft. I'm not sure. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time because I do have to take care of a couple things. I know Foots was supposed to call. I'm not sure if he's going to call.
Yeah. And just one last thing, because I do want to get back to that like Herbert Dak thing. Those guys to me are tier 2 quarterbacks. Those, you have your tier 1 Herbert, or I'm sorry, Burrow, Jackson, Lamar, Allen, those guys.
Exactly.
Tier 2 to me are like that's Stafford, Herbert, Dak, Jaden Daniels. Like everybody looks at where the Cowboys have went and said, "Oh, well, you choked when you got to this point." But they never bring up, hey, maybe the fact that they were there in the first place was like kind of an accomplishment. Because when you have like the 31st ranked pass blocking offensive line and you have Noah Brown as your number 2 receiver, I think I would say that you overachieve when you get to the divisional round.
Like, I said that year. Like, I was like, guys, like the fact we're playing the 49ers that year is a testament to like how we overachieved. Like the Cowboys should not have won 12 games that year.
No.
But they did. Last year, should they have won more playoff games? Yeah, I'm not even going to mess with you on that. But like that's where I'm saying, to your point, like there are times where this team overachieves. Like 2018 is a good example of them overachieving. Like that's where I think our expectation is, right? Or a lot of fans they need to win a Super Bowl. But not a people think about, okay, well, how far can this team actually go? Like last year, I thought this team could make it to the NFC title game in 2023. They didn't. It is what it is. I mean, for fuck's sake, the Lions got one and done this year. Like, shit can happen. And so, again, and that's not me defending the Cowboys' ineptitude. That's not me defending any players that don't play well or coaches that don't coach well. It's just calling it for how I see it, man. Like, it is what it is. The playoffs are so unpredictable, and sometimes there are teams that aren't supposed to be where they're supposed to be. But sometimes the best teams just roll through the playoffs, like we've seen in the major sports, right? You see in basketball, baseball, and now football, the teams that have spent the most money to construct their roster a certain way, they were well-oiled machines. They just tore through the playoffs. So I don't know, man. It's just
exactly. But yeah, I'll pull up that mock draft.
Yeah, because I know I gotta get going in a little bit.
All right, yeah. Hopefully Foots calls him, but if not, it is what it is. Yeah, all right. Let me pull up that mock draft.
And we're gonna. So what I'm thinking we do this go around is again we're not gonna do any trades, or let me say that again. Well, sorry. If we're gonna do trades, we can only do 1 or 2 trades. Okay. I think that's gonna be our guideline. So for those watching,
you know what? We'll see who's on the board, but I say let's do a scenario where we trade into the 20s and get a 2nd round pick. You want to do that?
Let's have some fun with it. Let's have some fun with it again, because people are gonna watch for those that are watching this live. Thank you guys so much. Please make sure to like if you haven't done so already. It's free. Subscribe if you want to support. Send super chats, membership, whatever you want to do. Again, we just do this for fun. It's up to you. But if you're watching as Chris is getting it set up, for those that are watching the video on demand of this, we're just playing around with this. Again, you might not like the fact that we're trading this or that. It's just a matter of, hey, you know what? We're just here to just talk about what the Cowboys can do to build. And we've seen they've traded down before. So we're going to just see how this draft goes. Worst case, we'll go down to the 20. Maybe we just go down to the like mid-teens. You know what I mean? Like we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Let's see the scenario if we can get a let's see the scenario if we can get a
By the way, I didn't realize Xavier Worthy had 8 catches for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's kind of crazy when we
Yeah,
think about
that's
it. He
wild.
broke the record for most receiving yards by a rookie in a Super Bowl. That's kind of crazy.
Okay, so all right, this is our board right now. I know Ashton Genty's there. And if this was the board, let me just say this to people who are going to get upset. I would draft Ashton Genty here.
I can't see the board.
Oh,
Um,
I'm sorry. Let me present it. Boom, present. Share screen. Let's see. PFF mock draft simulator. What? We can do the entire screen. Is this okay? Boom. There we go.
There
All
we
right,
go.
board.
Yep. Can we just go through? So for those that are, as I'm getting the, can we go up just to see who went 1 through 11 real quick, just so that I can make sure we got that. So let's see. So we went Cam Ward, Tetarella McMillan, Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, Malik Starks,
Mason Graham,
Shador Sanders to the Jets. Yeah, that's crazy. Abdul Carter, Luther Burden, James Pierce, Will Campbell, and now we're on the clock. So let's see. So we have Ashton Genty.
So I'm going to say this for the people who are watching. We would draft Ashton Genty in this scenario, but we want to see what would happen, how this team would look like if we're able to get an additional second round pick.
So let's see how we can make that happen, though. So let's see. So we got the Cincinnati Bengals that are coming up from 17 to 12. I don't think they would give
unrealistic.
The Packers, I could definitely see where you would have to give up a second round pick to move up, maybe even more. Honestly, like,
yeah, I would ask for 160.
How many spots are we moving up? Or moving down? This would be 11.
11, yeah.
Let me look.
Yeah, so we would take Ashton Genty here, but like I want to try this experiment out because 4 positions I think we need to get better at are offensive line, defensive line, running back, wide receiver, and I want to see if we can hit in as many needs as possible.
Okay, so give me 1 second. I'm just kind of looking. Okay, so when the bill, just to kind of give you a reference point to like a trade, right? So when the Vikings traded down from 17 to 23, or I'm sorry, when the Jaguars traded up from 23 to 17, they swapped firsts. They got a 5th that year, and then they got a 3rd and a 4th next year. So that's just moving up 6 spots. Now, I will say that I think that if you're moving down that much, you can even possibly, I'm going to try and see, I think you can even get a 1st-round pick next year out of someone, but let me just double check what happened. I think that happened in 2021. Let me look at that. Again, I just want to make sure that we're having a realistic
that one
conversation.
It has a 49% chance of.
Let me see. Okay, so for example, right? So this is what happened. So when we're at 12, right?
Yeah.
I want you to think about this. The Giants traded down with the Bears from 11 to 20. They got a 1st and a 5th. They swapped firsts and they got an additional 5th that year, but they picked up a 1st-round pick in the following year and a 4th-round pick. So to me, one of the things is that if you're unable to get an additional 1st, because you're moving down 11 spots, like I'm looking to get another 1st or some huge draft capital from you.
Yeah.
And I think they didn't give up. Did they give up a pick? No, they didn't.
Yeah, I think it's a little different with that though, because they were moving up for a quarterback.
Right, and so that is true.
Moving up.
Who's on the board? We don't have any other quarterbacks on the board that someone would want to come.
It's Ashton Genty, and we don't have any other quarterbacks. I just want to try. I just want to do a little experiment.
Let's do this. I think that the trade should be we swap firsts. We get a 2nd-round pick. I'm even looking at this. I'm looking at the Jets pick when they moved up 9 spots when they picked Elijah Vera Tucker. So the Jets got a 1st and a 4th, but the Vikings, when they traded down, got a 1st and 2/3. So I think that, to me at least, I would say that it would have to be like you're swapping firsts, a 2nd or 2 3s, In this case, it's going to be a second round pick. I would say try to get their fourth round pick, which I think was 123, and then maybe a pick next year, like a fourth rounder next year or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe even a third. Let me see. Can you see if we can get a third next year?
83% chance of being accepted.
All right, so we're gonna try it again. This is just for the experiment. So let's see. Awesome.
Hey, that is an awesome haul. You move back 11 spots, you get 23, 55, 123, and you get a round 3 for next year. I'm happy with that. So
yeah, I mean, all right, let's just see who went because it kind of skipped them. All right, so let's see here. So Ashton Genty, they went up to get Ashton Genty, which would be all right. Benjamin Morrison, Mike Green,
Mike Green, Josh Simmons, Tyler Warren, Calvin Banks, Armad Membu, Walter Nolan, Michael Williams, Matthew Golden. To me, the pick here would be Amarian Hampton because I want to get a running back. So I think
he's the best player on the board too.
I'm fine with getting a running back here because you traded back and you got extra draft capital. So you have a second round pick. Now, when you look at the board, Princely, Maman Layan, Jihad Campbell, Xavier Watts, Carson Schwedinger, Dylan Sampson, Savion Williams. To me, I was looking to potentially get a receiver here. It looks like there was a little bit of a run on receiver. Alec Ayomanure went in the first round.
Jack Beck, he went, and then
wide receiver. There's Xavier Restrepo. Wow, Trey Harris as a third round pick. That's crazy to me.
Tez Johnson is still there. I think Tez Johnson would be like, knowing the connection that the Cowboys have with Oregon now, with them bringing the wide receiver coaches over. But I think that here,
you want to know who I would pick? Me personally, Xavier Watts.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think you go with Xavier Watts here.
I would go Xavier Watts. And then here you can go receiver if you want. Jaden Higgins.
Well, who's available though? That's really the question though, at the wide receiver position.
Ariante Ursary, Darian Porter, Donovan Jackson is really good. But I think this team needs a receiver. I think they desperately need a receiver. Yeah. So me personally, the pick for me would be
I think I'm a big fan of his out of Iowa State. I think that I don't know. I got to see how he does in the combine because I think he'll be there in day 2. I think that he would be, for what you're asking him to do, to be like a wide receiver 3. Yeah, I think that at this point in time, when you're asking him to come in, I'm just trying to think.
We'll turn the card in here.
Go ahead.
This team needs a receiver in the worst way. Oh, this is really good because Wyatt Millam here at 76. Like, to me, if he's here, I'm turning the card in. And I'm not even thinking twice about that because at 66, I mean, you could put him at guard, and I think you have a starting guard right away.
Yeah, I was just actually I was getting a chance to start looking at the O-line prospects because now I'm kind of trying to see who we can get in the later rounds because this is where you want to start hitting on your offensive linemen. And I think that for Wyatt, I think that he would be a good find here, especially considering the fact that even if in a hypothetical situation he doesn't start this year, just knowing how the Cowboys do, I just think that this is a good pick because to me, you can move him inside or you can maybe look at him as a possible replacement for someone else down the road. And you know who I'm referring to. But
Zach Martin. So I would take Wyatt Millam here.
Yeah. Let's go with that.
Boom. Okay, so we have this fourth round pick. It's interesting because we have Joshua Farmer here. He's starting to make some noise here out of the Senior Bowl. Jacob Parrish, Brashard Smith, Riley Mills. I want to get better on the defensive line.
I think we go with him, honestly. I think that again, the Cowboys.
Farmer.
Yeah, let's go with Joshua Farmer here. We get a dude that's going to help us in the interior.
Okay. And then We have Kobe King, CJ West. Dude, to me, I'm doubling down on.
Let's just
If
double
CJ,
down. Like
yeah,
I've been a big fan of his, so we get another defensive lineman.
and then to me, we could probably go linebacker here with one of these two, Lindenberg or Danny Stunt.
I like Lindenberg out of Minnesota. Just being a Big Ten watch, we're both Big Ten watchers, and I have,
Oh,
yeah, we have a couple picks stacked, so I'm not gonna be.
I would look at this tight end here.
I know Gaddison's been going in the late rounds. He's been my guy out of Syracuse, and I know I don't like being the same. I don't like having to pick the same guy like 70 different times, but I do. I'm just also trying to think. Honestly,
I think
I think
that'd be a good pick just because.
you know what I'm thinking we do? Just hear me out here. I think this is going to be crazy. Where are we in round 5, right?
Yeah.
You know what I think we do? And you can say that this is a waste of a pick. I think you throw a flyer at Quinn Ewers.
Quinn Ewers? Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Just, dude, try it. Like, I mean, dude, you got to start trying at the quarterback position. And you, like, in day 3 is where you take flyers on players. Right.
And here's the thing, right? Like, you have this Caden. Now, we're in the 5th round here. I haven't gotten to these prospects yet, but I mean, 6'6", 255 pounds. He's 25 years old. Holy cow, man.
Yeah, I would just look at other. I mean,
this right here intrigues me. Jalen Conyers from Texas Tech. He's a tight end. He's 6'4", 265. He has a run block grade of 80.1.
Yeah, with PFF, I understand. Like, I'm not the biggest and fondest of them, mainly because of the fact that, like, I kind of just want to look at what they're doing. And I will say that I got to reach out to one of my buddies that's a Texas Tech fan to see if he's worth. I don't have a problem if we take him again. I do not care what you do after round 4. If you want to take him, we could take him. Again, I think that would be fine. But
okay, give me 1 second. Sorry,
you're good. No, you're good. You're good. I'm just checking my.
8, 5, 6. Okay, boom, sweet. Yeah, Foots is on another phone, so I had to send him my number over X. So okay, I say we take the flyer on the tight end just because this team's going to be playing in 12 personnel a lot. So I would take the flyer here. I mean, he has the physical traits, 6'4", 265, and that's why you have Lunda Wells to coach him up.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll do that, and then, all right, we got Foots calling in.
Gotcha.
Yo, Foots, what's up, bro?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, man. I say it like this: as long as my eyes open and everybody around me's healthy, everything else is a plus. So, and it sucks that Philly won yesterday, but hey, man, we can only control what we can control.
I think that, again, there's a silver lining to it. You beat Philly 2 years ago when you were healthy. I think that the Eagles have the best team. I think that Dallas has better players at certain positions, but their team as a whole, especially the trenches, both sides of the ball. And I want to say this, that I do like what the Cowboys are doing, because while the trenches are really good, I think it's the coaching side of things, right? Like having Jeff Stoutland, it's a cheat code. He's a great coach. I mean, they lose Kelsey, they don't miss a beat. They lose this player, they don't miss a beat. So,
Hey, and so I want to ask you this question. You know how the Cowboys, they build their team to win the division. And while, yes, I don't think that the Cowboys, because the Eagles won the Super Bowl, are saying, okay, we need to go make all these moves because, we feel motivated by this. But I think they do feel motivated to win their division. Do you think Philly building their team the way they built their team with, investing in the trenches, investing at running back, doing all these things, do you think that could actually be a good thing for Dallas? Because if they're beating a team to beat Philly, they're going to be able to beat a team that can pretty much beat anybody.
No, listen, I 100% agree, and I think that most people would like to think that Dallas is far off, but I don't think that they are. I think that they have to be aggressive in free agency and nail the draft. They've already done one thing really, really well for a long time, and that's nail the draft. Now you need to get some free agents in here who can. You can't have such a young team that you're relying on first or second year players to basically carry the team. It's just not going to work that way. And so I think that if you can nail the draft and then also hit in free agency, you don't have to go crazy for free agency, but you do need to bring in some free agents that make a difference. I think Dallas can be successful.
And hey, I want to run this by you. So, I think me, you, and Space are all on the same train of thought when we're talking about
what's going on, Space? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, brother.
And so we're all on the same train of thought when we talk about Ashton Genty at 12. He's a difference maker. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You just don't find difference makers to that extent at that pick. This guy's a blue chip player. I would be very comfortable if the Cowboys say, hey, Stephon Diggs will bring you in. You can be our number 2. You go add Genty. You then go in the second round and get one of these receivers, whether it be, a Jack Betch would be my personal favorite, Trey Harris, Ayo Manure, or Jaden Higgins, just somebody else in there. So when you're looking at your running back room, if your running back room is Genty and let's just say Dowdle or like another veteran free agent, I'm cool with that. And then you have Lamb, Diggs, Jack Betch, along with, re-signing Zach Martin. You have a better scheme. I think you improve, at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, offensive line, and I would still go out there and make an addition in the tight end room here.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to – it's impossible to answer every question in the draft. And, again, it goes back to even let's say we go running back receiver or receiver running back. It's a lot to ask the first-year receiver to be a receiver 2 immediately. Another guy that people have kind of forgotten about is Chris Godwin could be a name. But, yeah, Diggs, I mean, maybe you could talk to Godwin coming off that injury. I wouldn't be mad at Cooper Kupp. Just somebody who can consistently take pressure off CeeDee Lamb. I got to tell you, CeeDee Lamb is – I have him as a top 3 receiver in the league, not because he's a Cowboy.
For sure. No, for sure.
What he can do with the ball in his hands, his route run ability. I think the A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb debate is kind of funny just because we saw at times all you can do with A.J. Brown is keep him and camp him on the edge. Whereas, like, with CeeDee Lamb, you don't know, he's the ultimate joker, and he's good, and he's physical, and he can run after the catch. I want that in my receiver. We also saw teams like Cincinnati do that a lot this year with Jamar Chase. So I want that in my receiver. You literally need another guy who, when he's getting bracketed or when he's getting attention, can you just catch a slant consistently? Can you beat one-on-one coverage consistently? Can you catch a dig consistently? Can you do those things? So however you get to that, whether it be the draft or free agency, I'm with it. What you said about the running back room, this is where I want fans to understand. The running back room, you watched Kansas City last night. First of all, they played in gun all game, which is something that I went back and said they literally did not run one play from under center. Well, first, why does that matter? It matters because a lot of times when it comes to offensive line play, when you're in shotgun, your line is catching. Number 2, the type of run. So are you running duo? Are you running counter? What type of stuff are you trying to do? If you're not adding Mahomes to the run game, meaning he has a 2-way go, he can pull, he's in threats to do these things, then really you're playing at a disadvantage, especially against a Fangio defense where they keep eyes on everything. They run, they rally to the ball, they play cover 4 behind it, they play cover 6 behind it. They do all these things. now you're at a disadvantage. And oh, by the way, you don't have great running backs. So again, my philosophy is let's be ahead of the times. One thing that I did think that Detroit does well, the Packers, you saw the Rams really stress Philly's run defense. You know why? Because they were back to the basket runs. They dented the defense in those ways. They creased the defense in those ways. Counters, zone runs, all of that stuff matters. Who does that well? Ashton Genty. Okay, who hits the whole well? Ashton Genty. Who runs some of that stuff and ran some of that back to the basket run game? Clayton Adams and Brian Schottenheimer. So again, you need to have all of that in your bag. You have to stay ahead of the times. Run game is coming back in vogue, but then how you run the ball. Yeah, Washington runs the ball well because Daniels is a threat to pull. So he's in the run game. He's a part. You as a defense, you have to make him a part of the run fit. Dak isn't a threat to pull every game.
No.
Don't want him throwing the ball and running the ball so much out of gun this year. And I think that if the Cowboys adapt that mindset, I think they'll be okay.
Hey, and that's my thing, right? Like I want to muddy teams up because when you look at Philly, what they were able to do yesterday, when you could stop the run with 4 guys, it's really hard to throw the ball against that because they're not going to commit extra guys to the box because they can stop the run with 4. They're going to drop those guys back in coverage. And that's what makes their defense so damn good. Now, if Dallas wants to contend with that team, they got to get muddy. They got to go get a legit run game. Get under center. I'm an under center guy. That's what I've always been because, look, I can't really run to save my life. So, you know what I'm saying? If I'm in shotgun, I'm like, hey, man, look, ain't nobody worried about me taking off. But like, yeah, I'm under center. All the stuff that you were talking about with duo, counter, bro, that's how you're going to beat Philly. Get them to commit more guys to the box and add, like, I love this interior right now with BB and Smith, and I think they're only going to get better. Now you brought in one of the best offensive line minds in the game, along with this Kansas State guy. They got to develop Guyton. To me, hiring Clayton Adams, yes, you bring him in to improve your run scheme, but you also bring him in with the mindset of we invested a first-round pick in Guyton. He has all the traits that you need in a starting offensive lineman. You need to, this is one of your jobs. It's kind of like Ben Johnson in a way where it's like, yes, we want you to come in and change the culture and do some cool things on offense. But if we feel like you helped Caleb Williams reach his potential, I mean, you can't pay enough for a guy like that. So that's kind of like the way I look at this.
Yeah, no, I think, to me, when you have to, again, first of all, it starts with what are we asking our linemen to do? How are we asking them to play? I thought with Solari and with this team specifically, there was really no rhyme or reason for stuff. And it felt like they ran the ball just because it was something they had to do. Oh, we just got to have runs. I think that this team and this regime is saying, you know what? We're going to run the ball because we want to attack teams running the ball. I thought yesterday, you watched Kansas City, no edge runs. None. Just didn't attack the edge. Well, Foots, why is that important? Okay, Fangio's scheme, they're running man, but they're playing off man. So let's make these corners get in the rough fit. They had none of that. Like, it's just things like that to me, how I'm watching football, how I process the game. It's just like, yo, we can clearly see that they're just crush rushing. And for those listening who don't know what they're crush rushing, they're just pushing the pocket. Those ends weren't getting upfield. Why? They know if they get upfield, what's Mahomes going to do? Just sneak out the back door. So Fangio is very smart. He's old school. He understands certain things. Cool. Let's counter what he's doing. I don't think they did a good job of that.
Bro, exactly, man. Hey, you came on here and spit some gospel, man. This was high-level football talk, bro. And I appreciate you for coming on, bro. That meant the world to me.
No, much love to you in space. I'm going to hang up and listen, man. Anytime you guys need me, just let me know.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, my guy.
All right, much love, man.
Yep, say it.
All right. Foots is the best, man. He
Yo,
doesn't do it like anybody else.
That was a banger. If you guys were not listening, you guys missed out on some excellent content. So make sure to go back and watch because, man, I learned stuff listening to Foots every single time I talk to him. So one of the best in the game, no doubt about it. But
For sure.
to get back to, damn, I should have asked him about our mock draft with trading back for Hampton, but
it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's an idea that I've been floating out here. But yeah, we'll finish up the mock draft here.
Yeah, and then we'll get out of here mainly because of the fact that we've been going for a bit, but that's okay. It's always good to hear from Foots and stuff like that. So I'm not really again you know what I'm thinking? Honestly, I would just double down on running back. I would go with Taj Brooks.
Taj Brooks, that's a good he's
a guy that I really like. I would say that like I don't really care what happens at this point. If you want to draft
Ty Robinson, I know.
Yeah, that's already.
I like Ty Robinson a lot.
I don't care. Yeah, let's just do it.
Goddison, by the way, went right before that pick, so
that's okay. All right, so let's take a look. So we traded down from 12 to 23. We got a second, a fourth, and a future third. This is a pretty big haul. Like,
oh yeah, so here's the thing. All right, let's go through this pick by pick. Hampton, your running back room's better. Xavier Watts, your secondary's better. Jaden Higgins, your wide receiver room's better. Wyatt Millham, your offensive line's better. Farmer and West, your defensive line's better. Lindenberg, your linebacker room's better. Quinn Ewers, you have a better backup quarterback. Tight end and running backs with like those rooms get better. Your defensive line gets better. Overall, we got an A- on this, which is I think that's fair. I think that this is a great haul.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that like the main thing is that you look at what you do, you load up on certain position groups, you take a flyer on a quarterback where you think he can become at minimum a Cooper Rush 2.0. Quinn Ewers, I don't think is going to do anything in the league. Just me personally, just looking at how
backup quarterback.
I think he can be like at best like a Colt McCoy type player. I think.
Here's the thing. Here's my thing with Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers is a pretty solid quarterback. He just played for the Dallas Cowboys of college football, which is Texas. So he was under, and he had Arch Manning behind him as well. There were a lot of things there where I would just say like, hey, I think this guy's an NFL quarterback. Is he a starter?
He's got intangible, dude. He's got stuff that you would want. It's just that again, we're at a point where you're going to need to start trying at the quarterback position. Trying. Yeah. And I'm not saying like Dak's done. It's just like you need to start developing a younger backup. Like Cooper Rush is just getting older at this point. So is Dak, but like you see what I'm getting at is like they need to get someone younger in the room.
Yeah.
So
I think with this draft, your team got a lot better. And if you can go and attack free agency along with that draft class, along with your young players that you already have developing, you'll be a much better football team. And with a better scheme, better coaching staff, you'll be a much better football team. You can go back to being that 10, 12 win team. And then, hey, maybe next year, not this upcoming season, but the season after that, yeah, you could potentially be in for a really good season.
For sure. So, Chris, another good show in the books. Understandably, now the football season's over, and we got about a month until free agency hits, and then we're also going to see how the Cowboys move. So, I would say for those that are watching, just keep an eye out. Like our next couple shows will be about, who do we bring back and all that other stuff. We're going to have those conversations also what the Cowboys can do. Again, man, it's always good chopping it up with you. Was there anything else you had?
Nope. Yeah, my head's clear here.
All right, sounds good. Well, with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Cowboys Roundup, and we'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Yep, that's it.